There we go.
Just like that.
Okay.
We are returning from executive session. Item 4 under new business, which executive session was under 1 MRSA Title 21 4056A for the sole purpose of discussing a request for unpaid leave.
I make a motion that we approve the request for half-paid leave of absence as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So item, request number 2, do we need to go into executive session for this?
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
and again, the executive session notations on there are if the board believes they need to go into executive session.
Okay.
If you feel you do not need to, if you have enough information from what's been presented to
The
you.
other one.
Right. It depends on how you guys feel, and leave it to you guys.
I was okay with it.
I'm okay with it. Does everyone else?
The other item.
Okay. So everyone else is okay with staying in open session for it?
Okay.
Yep.
So this is request number 2 that we are on. And I would entertain a motion for that item.
I make a motion to approve the request for unpaid leave of absence as presented.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5 is discussion and consideration of proposed memorandum of understanding between the ESD and the EEA. This has a potential executive session under 1 MRSA Title 21 4056B.
There's so many letters.
I should know this one by now.
I have no need to go into executive
Neither do I.
session.
Nope. Then we should, everybody read that came.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you read the copy that was sent out
Today.
based on yesterday's, okay, good.
Yep. Excellent.
I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the ESB and the EEA as presented.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? I'd like to have discussion just to say that it was, I served with Dan. Dan and I met with the EEA over these memorandums of understanding, and I felt like it was extremely beneficial process. I was really, it was engaging, it was informative, and I think it just created a really great relationship, and I was very appreciative that they asked me to sit on that, so. Very good.
I think I would add, it was truly an atmosphere of good faith and collaboration.
It was.
And healthy conversation.
Sure was.
Excellent.
I agree. All right. Any further discussion? Just me. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
Jen, before we close this meeting.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
do have some comments
Okay.
from folks. So I have one that is from Lindsay Serrard.
Okay.
And she is a 10th grade student here in Ellsworth. She says, as a student, I do not feel safe returning back to school. With the amount of kids not wearing their masks properly, I do not feel safe. This decision is also at a time with so little time left in the school year, it doesn't make sense with COVID getting only slightly better. It would be awful to jeopardize that. Not many students/teachers are vaccinated, so bringing everyone back to full capacity is not in our best health interest. Also, with the new COVID case at ESD today, now is not the time. I would like to stay fully remote as I do not feel safe returning to max capacity. And then I do have another comment, and I'm so sorry. I am going to butcher this last name, I know it. This is from Tammy Wagenknecht. I think I
Okay.
said that somewhat in the vicinity. I speak for my family. We need to continue to have a fully remote learning program option for our students. My family has 2 high-risk people, and until we are vaccinated, remote is the safest option. There are people choosing not to have the vaccine, and that is fine. However, that poses a risk within the school for the students to be exposed. This is a risk that we do not want until we are able to get vaccinated, and the 30-day window has been reached after the second dose is given. And then I do have one more, which is from, hold on, let me see if I can figure out their name. He works for us, D. Morse.
Dan Morris?
Probably,
Yep.
yes. Okay,
Yep.
so this is from Dan Morse. I've been running the bus garage while Donnie and Mike are out. We are right now short 4 drivers. 3 buses are doing double runs now. So, he said if this fits in the meeting, I can read it anytime, but I think he's talking in reference to people coming back to school full-time. So he said, so some buses won't be there until 8 a.m. or so. So that's something to think about.
Okay, great.
Good to know.
All good comments.
Thank you very
So
much.
that's all that I had. I just wanted to make sure that I got it before
Right.
Okay,
we closed.
Good.
Thank you to
Alrighty.
those people for chiming
Yes.
in. We
Yes.
really appreciate it.
thank you.
Things we will take into consideration.
Item number F, calendar and announcements. So after this concludes, we do go into our workshop for March. The next school board meeting is Tuesday, April 13th, 2021, 6 o'clock here in the City Hall Council Chambers. School board workshop will be Tuesday, April 27th, 2021 at 6 o'clock, City Hall Council Chambers.
And I would just say to the board that, as you know, there may be and likely will be the need to do a special meeting
Yes.
over the next 2-3 weeks. I had reached out to Penny Weinstein to see about the availability of chambers, at least for this week and early next week. I'm not sure we need it yet, but I will continue to make sure that she's aware of that. Just keep your emails open and your calendars available. And that's tough this time of year to keep your calendars available. I
It
totally
sure
get
is.
it.
They're filling up quickly.
Right.
So having no further business in this meeting, I make a motion to adjourn the special board meeting.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
7-Eleven?
7-Eleven. So
Be a
now
good name for a store.
I don't know, Dan, it might be successful for a while, and then they'll just have to close them.
So, really?
So you're
Are we
you're
gonna
still.
move right in?
Do you want to jump right in? Do you need a break?
Does
Good night,
anybody?
Jane.
Probably
Good
should take a
night, thank
2-minute
you.
break because
Yep.
Kelly stepped out.
Take a 5-minute break?
Yep.
Okay.
So if
So
Laura
let
wants
members
to-
of the public know, it'll be a 5-minute break, and then the board will be coming back within 6 to 7 minutes to conduct their workshop.
Yep, great, thank you very much. We are still live.
Are we all 6 feet apart? Because I'm gonna stuff some raspberries and. One can wish.
I bet we can make this quick.
Did I hear Josh? Oh, Rebecca.
All right. Welcome back. School board is
Again.
now going to enter into our monthly workshop. It is now 7:15. Item number A on the workshop agenda is review and discussion of the climate survey. We talked about this in our last meeting in February? No, the beginning of March.
March.
And Kelly and Beth were tasked with working on a sample climate survey that we could then all discuss tonight, and then we can go over it. You all have paper copies, and then I think Beth sent.
Yes, I sent a
email
virtual
too.
copy as well.
Yep.
And it looks much better virtually.
Yes, virtually it looks much prettier, but we figured this way people
Yeah.
Oh, it
could,
looks great.
Yeah.
could
looks
see it
great.
and flip through it and.
Yep.
And Kelly and I have had a chance to, so this version that you're looking at, we do have a couple of spelling corrections
Okay.
I added some punctuation, like there's still some bits and pieces that we need to finish and update, and there may be a couple of questions that may disappear.
Okay.
We have been in touch with Anne at
Drummond and
Drummond
Woodsum.
Woodsum, and she's been fantastic in helping us through this. So we have a couple of things that she wanted to go through with us again, just because some of the questions, a couple of them that she mentioned, she felt like may be best served in a separate survey if we choose to do a separate
At another
survey.
time,
Because
so they may
right,
come
because
out.
we may not be able to do anything with it
Yep.
in that form.
Okay.
But she's been very helpful, and she did also offer their services in that if we choose, their marketing department would send it and collect the results for us. So that the results would go directly to them. They would tabulate and look through everything, and then they would send us a summary. And then if we wanted to see specific piles
Breakouts.
or whatever, then we could request to see those. The plan is also to have 3, so right now you have 1 completed survey. The plan is to have 3 separate surveys, so one would go to teachers, because
I see.
if you looked, some of these are teachers, questions that are going to relate specifically to teachers, one that would go specifically to administrators, and one that would go specifically to support staff, because not all of the questions in this
I
survey
see.
pertain.
I see. Yep.
And we wouldn't want the results to end up all wonky because people are like, well, I don't know what to answer on this, I'll just click one, you know,
That
so.
makes sense. I wondered that. 'cause
Yes, yes, so
And
what.
it makes it a little shorter too.
Right.
It'll make it a lot shorter.
Right, well, and we figured this way we could vet all the questions, and then as it moves forward, the only thing that's gonna happen is questions will be
Format
plucked.
would be changed.
And then we can, we can reshare those as we go.
Yep.
But
So-
at this point, they've all been vetted by Ann, and Bruce also has looked
Yes.
at them and given
Yep.
his thumbs up.
Okay.
And we wanted to make sure you'll see that most of these, all of these, I do believe, have a spot for comments. So if people want to elaborate.
Yeah.
There are some in here that I know Kelly and I are both really proud of. Like we have one that asks how much our teachers are spending from their own pocket.
I love that question.
And what are they spending it on?
That's
Because that
interesting.
can hopefully help us
Yeah.
to see some areas. And that way too, if they're getting something to beautify their classroom, then that might be something that's optional. But if it's something else, then it might be something we need to take a closer look at,
Yeah,
so.
that's great.
And we did include some COVID questions in here. And we have, at the back, we also have a spot where people, what didn't we ask that you think that we should know? So like if
Yep.
there's a question that wasn't covered.
Yeah, I thought it was very thoughtful and thorough.
Yes.
It does appear to have,
I think it's thoughtful, thorough, well thought out, well placed. I think the idea of having 3 separate ones makes it better.
Yeah.
'Cause when-
Yes.
When I scanned through it, Beth, electronically, I thought, wow, this might take a little while.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
I commend her to it, great work, and
Yeah.
certainly Ann Chapman
Oh, she's
is their policy consultant.
Yeah.
She's
So good.
fantastic,
She's
yeah,
top-notch.
she is.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I really appreciated the thought of having that expertise advice and then have it vetted by them so that we, just all feels like it,
Yeah,
you know.
well,
has to-
and she definitely brought some things to our attention that we wouldn't have thought of. Excuse me, and helped us to word things in a way that were more clear and concise.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure if you're sending a survey to 150 employees, that you don't have 150 different interpretations of the
Sure.
same question. So she was really helpful with that.
I was just gonna say, that's what I like about this, it reads clear, you understand what they're asking. You're not second guessing, that's great.
So I think we do need to discuss about when, like our timing on when we would be sending this out. And I personally do like the idea of having them collect the data. It keeps everything and on the up and up, and
Yeah.
it's great because then there's no misinterpretation for us either in collection, and it gives the anonymity to our staff, and it's
Right.
simple, honestly. I
Right.
think that's a really great.
And honestly, it's helpful in organization too, like I'm happy to take in the results, but when the results start coming in, there's gonna be a lot of breaking down,
Yeah.
and you know, that's what their marketing department does, so
Yeah.
they're experts in that, and then it's not, I mean, it could potentially take a lot of time to
No,
do that.
I agree with
so.
that. I think it's seamless. I think that's
Yes.
nice.
I like it.
So, we can't vote tonight, but we can
Right.
discuss when we would like to,
So
see
I-
this, the time frame of when this could go
We have to
out.
vote first, right, before we can do anything, and then at our next meeting, before we can send this.
Right, unless we do a special meeting.
Unless we
I think
do
we
a
should
special
do a
meeting.
special meeting, because the 13th is so far.
Yeah,
the
it feels
13th
like
does
it's
seem
far.
like
I'm going to gather that you're going to have a special meeting between now and the 13th. anyway.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
no,
think when you look at, you know, the great meeting that took place last night, you know, Abby, it was a real
Right.
positive meeting.
Right.
I think, you know, there are some things that the board's going to want to take action on, and you may
Okay.
be able to
Right.
combine those
That-
two items
yes,
into one meeting.
and
Perfect.
something that we did discuss with Anne is, generally speaking, when you get that phone call and it says, please check your email for an important message from the superintendent's office or whatever, that we would like to have an email that will be, once the survey is perfected and completed, we would also probably put together an email that probably consists a lot of this first paragraph on
Okay.
here, so that they know that it's coming from, so it wouldn't necessarily be from the office of the superintendent, it would be from, you know, the school,
as a school
school
board.
board members saying,
Sure.
this survey has been created by the school board, this is what it's for, this is where they'll be collected.
Okay.
We appreciate your time and effort in putting this together, so that we can send out something to them so they know to do the survey, to complete the survey, but also so that there's no confusion as to where it's coming from.
Okay. Did we have any discussion on length of time we were going to leave this open? So if indeed we have a special work meeting in the next week or two, and that gets approved and we are moving forward, would we be able to have it back by?
Yeah, we talked to Ann about that too,
April
and we want to
13th.
give people enough time to do it, but not enough time to forget about it.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
maybe send
Yes.
it like on a Monday and expect it back on a Friday, or
Okay.
something like that.
Or maybe
Give a
send
few
it on a
days.
Monday and expect it back on a Monday. I'm just thinking with all the sections for comments, we want to have people have time to.
That's true. It does
to
have the
fill in
opportunity for that.
and not have to, or even if you sent it on a Friday and then wrapped it up on a Wednesday or something, just.
I think
just
there
so
are
that-
people who would appreciate having
Yeah.
the weekend
A
to
week,
Yes.
work on
yeah,
it.
Yes.
that might not be a bad idea.
Yeah,
If we
because they're
don't
so
wanna-
busy during the week.
So if we think a week is too long, so sending it out on Monday and having it come back the following Monday, we could instead send it, like I think one of you already said,
Yeah.
on a Wednesday
Friday
and
to
come back
Wednesday or
Yeah.
on Monday.
And then
Yeah.
what would they need for time to collect the data and get it sent, did she say?
I'm not sure yet.
She was going to talk to their marketing department, and something that we will need, and this will probably come from you, sir, is we will need email addresses for all, to give to their marketing department of all of the staff and employees, And they will also need us to, and Kelly and I can do this if we need to break it down by which is which.
Which I think we can do out of our
Yep.
system.
Yes,
I
okay,
bet.
perfect.
Laura's got all kinds of lists that are broken down, if you're
Okay.
talking
Yes.
administrators, you're talking teachers, you're talking bus drivers, you're talking custodians.
Yeah.
I guess I would ask this question, and again, this is the nuts and bolts of it. So when you say support staff, are there groups of support staff that you could group together? So if you're talking
I
people-
think so.
And
Oh,
that
that'd
may
be
be worth of
helpful, I
a
bet.
conversation, because if you're talking about custodians and bus drivers, may be able to have a survey that's
Yeah,
pertains to them.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think-
Those can
I
be
think
broken down.
that would be,
Yeah.
yeah, that
That's
would be
easy.
beneficial,
Okay.
I do believe.
Okay.
So I think in terms of a special meeting, based on the conversation from last night, I would think that you may be talking about a special meeting, maybe possibly the middle to the end of next week.
Okay.
One of the things that came, and again, I know we're not here to talk about that tonight, but one of the things that came from last night was, there was really a lot of conversation. Principals are going back with their staff members, and people that weren't able to complete the survey, they're actually calling to make sure they have
Yeah.
their numbers.
Okay.
and trying to
How did we
finalize and
do with the
flesh-
survey?
What's that?
How did we do with the survey? Did we have a lot of
Well, actually, when you
participation?
consider of the amount of time and the quickness, when you're talking about 75 to 80% return in
Wow.
that period of time, that's outstanding.
That's incredible.
But the principals were really clear that they wanted to reach out to the people that didn't.
That 20%.
So,
That's incredible for a survey
there
that
was a lot
just
of
like,
conversations about vaccinations being an important
Wow.
piece, but I think there are things that the board would want to vote on once the principals have fleshed
Okay.
those pieces out. For example, going to the 3 feet, I think it's important the board do that.
Right.
Yeah. We
Discussion
need-
of
yeah.
bonuses and so, there'll be a few of those nuts and bolts
Yes.
that you guys should vote on, so.
wow,
If-
that's
if-
pretty
If you'd
incredible.
like, and again, I haven't talked to the principals about how long it's going to take them to do their phone calling and that type of thing, but I can reach out and see what's available middle to the end of next week for a special
Yeah.
meeting. Is that something that,
Because
Yeah.
Thursday, I think, is April 1st, so we're talking, middle,
okay.
I think that would
I'll reach
be-
out, I'll reach out to Penny tomorrow, and I'll let her
Thursday,
know
April
that
1st
tomorrow
is
night,
my daughter's
Thursday night,
birthday.
Friday night.
So maybe
and-
Wednesday, the 31st, or Tuesday, the 30th, like, middle would
Yes.
probably be preferred. Okay.
She is a diva and she'll be real mad at me if I'm.
Okay.
She wanted to come
So-
tonight. She had on a purple and a
Who's
pink,
this?
my daughter.
Oh.
She had on a purple and a pink dress, toy, high heels, and she was ready to go.
Okay,
No, you
so
cannot.
that will work out well, because we'll have the opportunity then to vote on it. The 13th would be 2 weeks, approximately
Yes.
2 weeks out. We should have time to then get it out, get it
Mhm.
back, get it sent, or they can receive it.
And this
hopefully give
few,
us our
this
data
few
by the
days
13th,
here will give us a chance to really get down to the nuts and bolts
And
of
it
how
gives
that
you
would
guys
work
a
with
few more
Ann.
days to
Yeah.
get that ironed out.
I
Okay.
think
Yes.
the other piece, and again, I don't
Yep.
know if you talked numbers with them,
Mm-hmm.
just so we can have a heads up on the budgetary numbers, so we can be prepared.
Yes, for how much that's gonna
Cost-wise.
cost. Yep,
Okay.
yep,
All right.
we'll find,
Because
we'll get a,
they provide outstanding
idea.
services.
But-
And
but
there's-
it-
There's a reason that it's outstanding.
right? You get what you pay for.
Absolutely, oh yeah, no
Right,
question.
right,
No
right.
question.
Okay.
No, that makes sense, Dan.
Okay, yep, all right.
Yeah.
That works out well.
Excellent.
All right. Think we're all set there then? On to item B.
Kelly Beth, well done.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Very well done. FY
A lot of well done's
22.
going around tonight.
I know, good work.
It's a good one.
All right, Dan, as much as I would love to talk about the budget myself.
Jen,
It's
all
on
yours.
to you.
Jen, it's all yours. All right, folks, this is hot off the presses as of this afternoon when the power went out. We talked about that a little bit
Oh, I just
earlier.
took that one.
But the purpose of tonight is to give the board and our community a status update on where we are. And want to note right off the top that what we're going to talk about, what I'm going to review tonight, includes many items that are there for informative purposes. When you look at the facilities and maintenance budget, as much as we would like to do every single thing that's in there, it's not possible to make it happen. There are some staffing pieces that are likely not to happen, and our administrators are prioritizing, but I think it's important for the board to know. And some of these things are things you have heard about before. Some of them are new, but making sure that people know that they're not likely all to be there when we get to the final budget that you vote on mid-April or late April. Okay? Also note that the information we're talking about tonight is not going to include the revenue side of the ledger. While we have the ED 279s preliminary, those aren't finalized until the legislature finally votes on a budget. The other piece is, we were asked to provide information on the 279 subsidy form, letting them know that we thought there may be an error or something they hadn't calculated properly. We did pose one question with regard to CTE subsidy. We're contending that the funding to support a new cybersecurity program is not included in the figures. We have not heard back on that, so we haven't included that. The other piece is, you've heard Dan Clifford and Amy Bowles talking about their recruiting. As with everything else, they've been impacted by COVID. So they're doing some virtual recruiting. Amy's been able to do some in-person recruiting. They're still finishing that up. And as you know, students that come to HCTC come with typically a per pupil assessment. Students that come to EHS from our many sending communities who choose Ellsworth High School come with tuition. That's a piece. The other piece is the final audit isn't finished yet. So some of those figures would be speculation at this point in time, and I don't think we want to get into that. Because when you're talking about speculation, you're talking about local assessment. And I don't want to put any misinformation out there. So to go through this overview, areas of focus for FY22 include staffing to meet enrollment shifts, trends, and student needs. Addresses for increased needs for students. There's some funding in here for trauma, social and emotional needs for students. There's also funding in here to support projected incoming students that receive special services. Proposed addition of new programs at HCTC, and we've talked about this before, it's the cybersecurity program. And support for a facilities and maintenance plan. So the two documents that I had provided to you, one is kind of what I'm going to follow through, but I would also ask that you follow along with the spreadsheet that I sent that outlines all these proposed expenditures by cost center. So first one we start with is our regular instruction, and this is your K through 12 instruction program, or excuse me, pre-K through 12 instruction program. As you look at the spreadsheet, you're looking at, and again, this is everything. I would also say right off the top, folks, this also includes wages by negotiated agreement, so increases that are contracted are in there. Right now, it also includes, and this is something we do every year, because you don't know what Anthem health insurance rates are going to do. But I'm going to finish this up with some positive news, just so you know. The numbers you see tonight reflect a 12% increase in premiums. Okay, over the past 4 or 5 years, the maximum rate in the separate bands that the MEA Benefits Trust calculates have been in the low double digits. So we've always started there, preferring to take money away rather than add.
Right.
So this reflects wages that are part of your collective bargaining agreements and a 12% increase. So the good news is this, and I'll say this very loudly because I want everybody to hear it. We were notified today, not what our specific band is for the Ellsworth School Department, but that the maximum level of insurance increase is going to be 4.2%.
Woo! Wow.
So
That's
that's going to take,
low.
and Carolyn and I were estimating today, somewhere between 150 and 200, maybe 225,000
Wow.
off from this.
Wow, that's
So
exciting.
that's not reflected in here, so when you hear these numbers, please know those are going to go down. So with that being said, on regular instruction, with those caveats, you're looking at an increase of about 11% or $730,000. What's included in there right now, and let me just talk a little bit about staffing. And this is based upon enrollment. This is something we've been talking about for a couple of years. Proposal to increase the current .5 FTE, foreign language teacher, which is Spanish, to full-time. And again, this is presuming we're all back in school 5 days a week next year. We will be. It also includes a proposed half-time vocal instructor at Ellsworth High School, which would be shared with a half-time music teacher at Ellsworth Elementary Middle School. Based on a couple of reasons. One, if you look at the middle school program and you look at the K through 4 program, that is a significant challenge for two people. We've been looking at trying to establish this for the past couple of years. We're also looking to enhance the vocal program at the high school, so hiring one new full-time person would address both of those needs. It would also, looking at, and math has been a challenge not just in Ellsworth, but across the state and across the country for a period of time. And these are not going to be new proposals that you're hearing. We're proposing right now to have a full-time math interventionist K through 8, a full-time math interventionist 9 through 12. Now again, you might say, why K through 8, why 9 through 12? And the conversation we had with the finance committee was, in talking about that, we may adjust those levels depending upon where the specific needs are. But getting 2 people in here, what this would do is address mathematics and mathematics instruction and learning in the same way that we address literacy with our Title I people.
Which is
This
a
also
fantastic
includes looking at our projected enrollment, adding a grade 7 classroom teacher. And if you look at our enrollment levels, we do have some ebbs and flows. Right now, with the numbers as they are, everybody coming back, we would need an additional teacher at grade 7. And just so people know, we try to have a maximum student-teacher ratio of 18 to 1 grades K through 3. It had been 20 to 1, 3 through 4 and 5, and 22, 6 through 8. We've tried to get that to 20 to 1 from 4 through 8. So that's what those numbers are based upon. Now, one thing we will say is, and this is something that we don't know, our kindergarten numbers are relatively low this year. We expect that a lot of families kept their children out this year, and we expect those children to be coming back next year. If for some reason we didn't see increases in those levels, or the incoming kindergarten class next year was small, we do have the ability, because we have enough teachers to support that 18 to 1 ratio. If you don't need a teacher there, that 7th grade position may come out and you may transfer someone. May not be a kindergarten teacher to grade 7, but somewhere along the
Shifts
grade space.
along
But
the
right
way.
now, it includes an additional teacher. And the other piece that we tried to get in last year, and COVID totally threw this out, our pre-K program, as you know, is 4 days a week, not full day. We've been talking with Down East Community Partners about trying to find a way to expand that to full day and 5 days a week, so that we could get the maximum enrollment. We can house up to 18 students. Memorandum of understanding we have with them permits that. We're anywhere between 11 to 15 to 16. The thing that we may find if we're able to do that is that there may be more demand, and then we may be looking at a different situation moving forward. But right now, it's about, I want to look and make sure I give you the right figure for that. What you're talking about is probably about $24,000 to make that happen. That is included in this draft.
Okay.
So when you're looking at regular instruction, that's what you're talking about. Supplies, equipment, textbooks, and so forth. Our staff members do a great job. They don't ask for and they don't budget for things that they don't need. They don't ask for luxuries. They say, give us what we need to provide for our students. One thing that we may look at, we've been very fortunate with the federal funding to purchase a lot of supplies, equipment, and so forth. There may be some of those pieces that people are requesting that they may not need. We typically don't go back and say reduce supplies or anything like that. We'll see where that takes us. So that's regular instruction. Any questions on that piece?
I think we also had the 504 coordinator too.
Yes.
On that one too, right?
Okay, well, and you know what? Here's the piece. 504 coordinator, I put that there. That's because a
Goes
couple of years
both.
ago, we looked at that as part of regular instruction. That actually is going to come down under social work and student staff.
Okay.
So when the power went out, that wasn't something I was able to do. So yes, I'm going to blame it on the power outage because it's
Do
still
it.
on that line.
Perfect.
Perfect.
But it is in the budget, so. Special education. Right now, you're looking at a $4.7 million of special ed, about a 13.5% increase. And again, this is based upon what we're projecting for students coming in. And right now, based upon the needs that we have, we're looking at 11 new Ed Tech 3s at EMS. Many of them would be of the one-to-one variety. Proposed addition of 1 full-time equivalent resource room teacher at grades 5 through 8. Now that's beyond the unfilled position that we have. An addition of a special ed teacher at K through 4. Okay. I still have the safety care training to take place over the summer rather than on PLC days. This is not an addition to the budget. This is something that we had in the budget for last year, and COVID totally wiped it out.
Right.
That funding actually went into fund balance as unexpended, but we still have to put it in here. We may offset it depending on how much fund balance we use, but just so you know, that's still a priority. Further development of planning to support staff in social and emotional learning. That's supplies, that's equipment, that's programs, that's professional development. Projected out-of-district tuition. This is for students that we, even with the great SPED program that we have, there are some students that you work through the least restrictive environment progression, you cannot program for here. Right now, we're seeing a decrease on that line. The reason that I mention it here, it's good news that it's a decrease for a variety of reasons. If you can have kids in your schools, that's always better in my perspective. It's also a reduction in the budget, but that's something that you know as well as I do could change on a moment's
Yeah,
notice.
absolutely.
And looking at, even though we have federal funding, we're projecting for an increase in summer school expenses. We include it in the local budget. It may be able to come out, depending upon what our needs end up being, and what we find out for what we're going to get for the next set of ESSER funding. So that's what's included in special ed, and you can see that those pieces right there take up the bulk of your increases. Career and technical education, this is HCTC. You can see that right now it's $1.9 million, $225,000. I will tell you right off the bat that the bulk of that increase comes from the increase or the addition of the cybersecurity program. Okay? So what you're talking about is a new staff member with insurance. You're talking about supplies, equipment, technology, textbooks, and you're talking about some renovation. So of that $225,000, you're talking close to $140,000 of that comes directly for that program. Now again, if we're correct that the ED 279 subsidy form is incorrect, we should see an addition of about $75,000 on the revenue side, which would help that. Again, we haven't gotten that answer yet. We're still pushing for it. Aside from that, HCTC is moving forward, salary and wage increases.
Okay.
Other instruction, what other instruction is your after-school, summer school, and your co and extracurricular. You can see that there's $837,000 on this line and a 20% increase. Okay. What I can tell you is a couple of small pieces are the addition of 2 new stipends. We had them in the budget last year when we were asked to reduce the budget at the last minute by $100,000. Those 2 came out. Stipends for esports in JV tennis. Esports, as you heard Mr. Frost talk about, we were fortunate to be able to use federal funds to get that going this year, and it's been a great success. So we're including that. But a good part of the other increase is athletic supplies at EMS. Cheering mats need to be replaced. Uniforms need to be replaced. Those come with a price tag. And also equipment for EHS athletics. I think both Josh and Travis have done a good job trying to spread things out. Some really high-ticket items that account for a big part of this increase. Pole vault mats, baseball, softball bleachers are the biggest items. You're talking probably $60,000 to $70,000 on those 2 alone. Okay, so when you look at that increase, take those out, it's really not a big increase. Again, both of those are not likely to survive. The next piece is your student and staff services. $2.1 million shows an increase of $120,000 or 6%. This is where your 504 coordinator actually is housed in the budget. And again, that's a piece that we had in the budget last year. Through the process, it did not survive. That's a position that we critically need.
So right now, that's counted in both places, but should only be counted in that
No,
one?
it shows up on the overview sheet that I gave you in both places. It's
Okay.
only in the budget in one
Okay,
place. It's not
thank you.
duplicated.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Also, in looking at our nursing needs, right now we have an additional 0.5 FTE nursing support, and this is for medication administration. What COVID has really brought to light is, particularly at EMS, there is need for additional staffing. The funding formula does not support it. It says we have adequate nursing for what the funding formula provides. We're advocating for additional help for our 2 nurses. Right now, it shows a nursing support. This is not a full-time RN. Depending upon how we move forward, we may be looking at a half-time RN level position. But right now, it includes this, which is a small amount. Materials to support social and emotional support. Tuition reimbursement for staff members who are taking graduate coursework. I should also say student and staff support includes a number of areas. It includes your guidance program, your health program, which is your nurses, your social work program, which includes the 504 coordinator, includes the social workers that we have. And again, I would add, we've really done a great job, and I think it's a commendation to boards and our community for recognizing that those are important needs for our kids. So we've been able to add to that staffing. I would also say that the funding formula tells us that we've got more than we need. Needs dictate that we don't have more than we need. It includes your social work, includes your instructional staff training. This is where your professional development comes. Teachers taking courses, pursuing advanced degrees that support either a move to administration. Again, we try to grow people from within, or also enhance their teaching, as you talked about a little bit earlier tonight. There's significant dollars there that are included. I will tell you that every year when it comes to that piece of instructional staff training, the requests that we have far exceed what we expend historically. So there will be some numbers that come down in that today. It also includes your library program, instructional technology, which is a program Laura Johns runs, and your curriculum and assessment. But when you look at all the needs there, and you're looking at adding another position for certain, potentially a half-time nurse, a 6% increase on that line right now is not significant, particularly when you're going to be taking some out from the tuition reimbursement lines. And again, if you guys have questions, please stop me. I hope I've anticipated your questions.
So far, so good.
System administration, which is you guys, which is the superintendent's office and the business office. What you can see here, $595,000, it's an $18,000 increase, 3%. Legal and audit services, insurance, wages, software maintenance. And I always give this plug because years ago when consolidation came about, one of the pieces that came out was school departments that are spending 4% of their budget or less on system administration were efficient. If you look at the percentage of the budget that the school board, the superintendent's office, and the business office encompasses, 2.4%. Pretty efficient. School administration, which is your principal's offices, not including HCTC. You've got the wages and insurance, and again, I'll repeat it. Some of these numbers are going to come down where you have staff members because of that change in insurance. And by the way, keep your fingers crossed that the first week of April we find out that it's lower than 4%.
That would be great.
That would be wonderful.
But when you're looking there, you're looking at wages and insurance, you're looking at professional development activities. Right now, there's an increase on the postage line. We're seeing, obviously, an increase in postage.
Yes.
Again, that's something that may come down. Staff professional development, certainly we support our principals in doing professional development. One piece that I mentioned to the Finance Committee, there's about $54,000 in staging for graduation. This is something that our principal's office at the high school has been advocating for a couple of years. We think it makes sense, makes a lot of sense, because we do rent staging for the gymnasium to do graduations. This may not be the year to do it for a couple of reasons. One, staffing to put things up and take them down. Storage. And again, when you're looking at priorities, honestly, if I'm looking at having to rent for a much smaller amount for another couple of years, rather than buying that equipment and a 504 or a math interventionist, to me,
Yeah.
that rises to a higher level.
Right.
Right.
So you can see that number coming down. You take $54,000 out of that increase, and that's far different.
Right.
So is that why that's such a, because right now it shows an increase of about
13%.
13%,
That includes
so
that
that's-
54,000. It also includes insurance for all of your
Yes.
building level principals and administrative assistants.
Yeah, so that number is
12%.
going to look prettier and
Yeah.
prettier
Well,
soon.
And again, all these numbers are going to look, and I'll use your term, Beth, prettier. All of them are going to look prettier.
Can we use Laura's skinny down?
Yes.
Actually, yes,
Really?
our IT
I like
director,
those.
we're going to skinny down the budget. And we let her know that we would, thank you for reminding me, Jen. We let her know that we would use that and give her
Yes.
credit for it.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, facilities maintenance. Okay, this is the one that shows a significant increase. So right now, with everything that's included in there, you're looking at just under 2.7 million, a $300,000 increase, 13%. What's included in there, and credit to Chuck Turnbull along with the other administrators, Chuck does a great job with his budget. He includes things that are multi-year projects. He always includes them every year. But if you look at his budget spreadsheet, he has everything prioritized from item 1 down to the bottom when it comes to capital projects. So things that are in there, and again, not all of these will remain, is a phased-in replacement of the EHS roof. And this is a multiple-year project. This actually went down a little bit. Originally, we were talking about Part A of the roof. I think we're now talking about Part C. Part of that's because of the leak that we had a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
You guys remember?
Right.
Turns out that was not a function of the work we had a couple of years to close in the skylight. That was something else. but we talked with the roofing people and we thought it would make more sense to do a different portion of the roof. So that's one that's going to stay in there. Replacement of the gym bleachers at Ellsworth High School. They're the original bleachers from 1996. It's difficult, if near impossible, to get replacement parts for them. So Chuck is advocating for those. Now, that's a $140,000 price tag. That's something that probably is not going to happen. But resurfacing the north parking lot at Ellsworth High School, each year we've been resurfacing a portion of that parking lot. That's a $43,000 cost. Replacement of carpeting in the library. You're talking 2 sections in the library, almost $30,000. A couple of reasons. One, it's the original carpeting from 1996. It also, you're right, Kelly, but it also factors into, when you're looking at everything that's been done to keep your schools clean, safe,
Yes.
disinfected, and a lot of schools have done this, you've been replacing carpet with other flooring.
Right.
So that's why that's in there. Tennis court resurfacing, this is something we've been looking at for several years. That's a $21,000 price tag. Window replacements, this is at Ellsworth High School. Again, most of these are at Ellsworth High School, by the way. If you'll notice when you go to the high school, you're going to notice that there are many windows that have kind of a aqua blue.
Mhm.
I don't know what the actual color is. And one of the things that we started several years ago is when we're replacing windows, is to replace them and have them the color of, remember the big skylight window in the front of the gym? It used to be that blue color, it's now burgundy, or I think they call it Cabernet, is what the color was. As we're replacing windows, the windows are getting older, they're old, most of them are originals, you can't get replacement parts, so when we're replacing them with a Cabernet color. Look around the guidance office, and look how much nicer it looks when you've
Yeah.
got that school color, it's really a great piece. So Chuck has $40,000 worth of window replacements in there that we'd like to do, some of them will probably come out. Walkway bollards at Ellsworth High School, if you look, the brick bollards, they need work.
Yes.
They need to be
Yeah, they're
rebuilt.
falling apart.
That's in there. And also that walkway coming into Ellsworth High School.
Mhm.
That's concrete, they've tried patching it year after year. Chuck is recommending that we do it with a pavement piece. So those are the bulk of those increases. The other piece he has, and it's interesting, with the Department of Education's chart of accounts, furniture and fixtures for your classrooms you think would come in the instructional budget. It doesn't. Furniture and fixtures for your classrooms comes in the maintenance budget. So teachers that need a new desk or a new chair, or you want to replace desks for a classroom, those fall under Chuck's budget. Those are all here. What we've asked the principals to do is, just like you do with uniforms, try to have a replacement cycle so that you're spending a similar amount each year rather than a big amount in one year. And the other piece, Chuck doesn't ask for a lot. There are a couple of pieces of maintenance equipment that his staff needs that will help them continue to do a great job with the buildings. So there's a lot in there, folks. There will be some changes moving forward with that. The other thing that we do in the facilities and maintenance area, we're always looking at our utilities. Even with the solar project that's coming online, this isn't the year that we're going to see a reduction in that. That will come down the road. But we always look at what are we spending each month and try to make sure we have a proper average. And it's the same thing with heating oil and propane. So those numbers will get massaged moving forward.
I will say on the facilities and maintenance too, one of the items that I thought was great that Chuck had mentioned was more tables and chairs.
Yep.
Because when the 8th graders have their graduation, that all gets transported over from, EEMS doesn't actually have their own set of tables and chairs for their larger events. So that really struck me too, is the man hours and everything that
Yeah.
it takes to go from one school to the other.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's an important item, and again, I didn't have it on the list because it's not a significant.
No.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a $141,000 set of bleachers.
Right.
But
Right.
it's a great point, Janet.
But it
And
was-
Chuck's staff does a lot of that.
Yeah.
They do a lot of that. So any questions on the maintenance piece, facilities maintenance? Transportation, this is going to be an easy one. If you look, it's a reduction of about $20,000. One of the reasons is we've retired one of the lease purchase payments, and, through the past couple of years with the Volkswagen settlement and the propane buses, and being able to get buses through ESSER, or CARES, or CRF, whichever one of those acronyms it was, we don't need to upgrade the fleet this year. So that's a positive. Food service and adult ed, let me just touch on those. Food service, raised budget, as a projected 3% increase in food expenses. One of the challenges that we're finding here is we typically do our revenue side we look at the number of meals that we serve in all the different categories, full pay, reduced. We track the number of free, but that's not a revenue. We also look at the à la carte programs. And Ray's got a really nice sheet that walks us through, and we look at what we project for the next year. Obviously, the numbers that we have from this year are far different. You've got roughly half your kids coming in each day. The other thing that's complicating that is, right now, as you know, through a program through the state and the federal government, meals are paid for. So we're still trying to massage that piece. So right now, what that shows is, in food service, an increase of about $22,000 contribution from the city. That's not Ray's budget. That's the amount of money that we'd be asking the city for. Okay, that's a work in progress. Adult education, right now, again, same thing. We have an estimate on the subsidy. What we don't know is the fund balance. But Annie's looking, she's moved into a new space. And by the way, if you haven't driven by the Mill Mall, her new sign is up. She's proud of it. Go take a look at it. It looks really good. But with that classroom space, they still need to do some work on the inside. She's been very creative in finding the funding to make it work, in addition to the lease payments for that. And again, there was not an increase in lease payments for this. We planned for that. But furniture and fixtures for the new space, wages and insurance, and tuition reimbursement for her staff. So right now, we're looking at, it's an $84,000 increase to what's asked for locally. That is likely to get massaged down. The other piece that I would just mention, and again, this is something that debt service, you'll notice there's a significant decrease there. Obviously, that's through the payment cycle that we have. It was not renegotiated, but recalculated 2 or 3 years ago, and the level of interest went down. So some years we're seeing a significant reduction. The thing that offsets that is we do get, through the ED 279 through the state, we get reimbursement for debt service for most of the funding at EMS. The geothermal heating system is something that was picked up locally. That's why you see a decrease there. There's also a decrease in the revenues. So again, I'll say, if you factor in all of those pieces, and I will stress again, this is not where the budget's going to end up. You're talking about 8.6, 8.7% increase. Okay? But that's not where it's going to end up. We know it's going to come down with insurance. We know a number of the pieces are going to come out. But I think it's important that our community knows what's in the budget, what our people are advocating for, and just a reminder of how the process works. So that's as brief an update as I can provide you. I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Is it possible, Dan, that any of the, I don't remember which one it was now, the most recent economic stimulus, is it possible that any of those things will be impacted by that, or no, because usually those are so specifically earmarked?
No, they're fairly specifically earmarked. One of the places, and we've looked at ways, because I haven't seen the language on the next set that's coming, but typically when you're dealing with federal funds, there's a supplement, not supplant requirement. So in other words, you need to supplement
Right.
what your local budget is. You can't take something out of the local budget and use federal funds for it.
Right.
We've looked at, for example, could you leverage federal funds for the K through 4 504 K through 7 504 interventionist and make a relationship to COVID?
Yeah.
I think that's probably a stretch. We're looking at ways in which we
Maybe
can
the
do that.
math one, they could stretch on that too.
Well, but, I mean, we're looking at ways that we
Yeah.
can do that within the parameters that may impact.
Yeah,
but
and
again-
that might help with like maybe some of the summer school costs and
Well, with
potentially too,
some of-
because
yeah, that's one thing we do
that's
know.
not a stretch.
Yeah.
That's a kids needing to get caught up and
Yes.
situated.
Well, and that's one thing that we do know that's coming from the current ESSER funds that we have and from the money that is coming. There's an emphasis on using it for learning recovery.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
But no, it's a great question,
Yeah.
and we've tried to look at that with all these funds. Are there
Yeah.
ways that we can do that? So,
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like next year of all years, it's gonna be that much more important to have a math,
Right.
I don't remember what it's called. but it's-
Interventionist.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's gonna be more important next year than it's ever, it's always been important, but even more so next year when so many kids are gonna have had that time that they haven't been
I
able to
agree.
really
We
work
talked
on
about
it.
that in finance, that it
yeah,
just,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to see that one survive this year.
Yes, me too.
it's
Especially
important.
seeing how fantastic the reading recovery program
know.
is.
I
Like,
have to agree.
I mean, I had 2 kids who did reading recovery. Now they read above grade level, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
there's
It's
a lot to be said
amazing.
for that.
And the formal reading recovery program, but also, not all of the 4 people we have doing literacy are part of reading recovery.
Right.
We talk about them being Title 1A, but they're servicing the kids who need it. But it's a similar type of, no, it's a great benefit.
Yeah, it's
It really
incredible.
is.
And most of your districts have always had that type of support, but people are moving towards the math piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with what Jen said, we talked about it at finance. And I guess this is another piece. We did this with the literacy coach that we have, instructional coach that we have. We advocated for that for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years ago. And the way we ended up getting that into the budget was we were able to use Title I funding to support that because it qualified as a seed. And then as we were able to move forward, we were able to work it into the local budget. So
Yeah.
that may be a possibility here too. We don't know the final on Title
That's
I
true.
funding.
Yeah.
But
So-
we try to be as creative, we try to be
No.
as creative as we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So timeline, just so everybody understands, what's our process for the next few
Well,
weeks?
and again, as you know, our administrators, there are still a few administrators that are presenting, and they need to meet with Paul and Jen.
Mm-hmm.
I know I had communication with City Manager Chief Mosier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still having a hard time with the dual titles. Has talked about a budget workshop with the council on either April 12th or the 26th. I'm leaning towards the 12th, and if he's watching tonight, he's hearing me say that. I told him I'd get back to him. But I think the piece is to finalize those pieces, get the other groups in front of Paul and Jen, do a budget workshop at the April meeting, and probably target a late April, maybe early May special meeting for the board to approve the budget,
Okay.
so that it can go to the council at their May meeting.
Mhm.
And that's typically where, you as a board will vote to approve the budget and recommend it be put onto the council for their approval.
Mhm.
When they vote, hopefully there'll be support there, and they've been wonderfully supportive over the years. Then the next step would be to go to the voters on the June election day.
Okay.
Dan, I'm sure you will, keep us posted on if that comes up as, is going to be on the city council.
Yes, I'll let you know what the day is, and that will be.
Sorry, my brain went,
I know.
what the?
And typically, what that is, that's a meeting here on an evening. They
Yes.
do that with all the departments.
Yes,
so.
because I know I would like to be able to watch that.
We'll keep
Absolutely.
everybody posted.
So that we can.
And you'll hear a lot of the
Be
stuff
up to
we're talking
date on
about
it.
tonight, although it will be adjusted from
Yeah.
here until then, but absolutely, yep.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial for us to be able to be paying attention to that, because,
Absolutely. And we were hoping to have the change in insurance for tonight.
but still,
As
you
soon as the
made
lights
it
went
so
out, I walked down to
happy.
Carolyn's office, and she just looked at me and went like this. Not the skinny down the budget, this.
Yep. All right.
But if you were gonna have to change it after the fact, at least it's gonna be able to go in the
Going
downward
down.
direction
Absolutely.
instead of upward.
Absolutely, Beth.
Any more, do we have any other public comment? I never
No.
thought to ask at the beginning.
Nope.
Okay. All right.
We have covered them all.
Does anybody have any other questions for the budget piece? We know where we're headed with it,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you, folks. I
Think we should
appreciate your
adjourn?
time, appreciate your attention. I hope it didn't put you to sleep.
That's right.
I think it's actually
Thank you.
really interesting.
We will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.